The Mr. and Miss Juneteenth scholarship pageants encourage youth to have high self-esteem, positive attitude, and a healthy balance of life while being an asset to their community. That's very important. Now, Juneteenth is also known as Freedom Day or Liberation Day. In Texas, Juneteenth commemorates the day in 1865 when the Emancipation Proclamation was read in Galveston, Texas, announcing all the slaves in the state of Texas were free. Now, if I take you back to understand that the Emancipation Proclamation was signed on September the 22nd of 1862. Abraham Lincoln worked hard to figure out just how to handle the issues of the Confederates and the Union during the American Civil War. This was to start on January the 1st, 1863. However, it came more than 2 years later that President Abraham Lincoln had issued the proclamation when finally and formally by a gentleman by the name of Colonel Granger came on the banks to Galveston, Texas to share that the slaves had been emancipated. So they say that over 250,000 enslaved Texans found out they were free. And what happened was the people took to celebrating. And now this Juneteenth pageant encourages young men and young ladies to be bold, to be great, and to be courageous. Juneteenth pageants happen, and there is a role and responsibility for each contestant to do positive things for their community and for them to know that with their being an asset to the community that they are going to do some positive things. And one of those things is to make sure that they comply with all of the regulations for becoming Mr. or Miss Juneteenth. Now, they're judged on different things: artistic expression, presentation, and community achievement. They ask stage questions as well as they interview people personally. And there is a presence of performance and poise, and they get to dress up in fancy evening gowns. Now, where my grandmother grew up, local Miss Juneteenth pageants were held, and they were studying and trying to make sure that they were able to receive a scholarship so that they could do all they could to make it to the college of their choice. So the focus at that time, my grandmother explained, was about empowerment, history, community, and honoring our Black culture, as well as those who had sacrificed their lives for freedom. Now, Maggie Moore, my grandmother, stated that she, at the time she was running for Miss Juneteenth, she was working on fighting domestic abuse with the hopes that she would become Miss Juneteenth and either enter Lane College in Tennessee or Prairie View in Texas, which would happen the following year. She was able to earn $2,500 in additional scholarship money. But you had to know that this was something that you took pretty serious. As Miss Juneteenth, you are regarded as being an exceptional young person, a role model for all youth. A whole year you are in the reign of being Mr. and Miss Juneteenth. And so you have to make sure that you promote positive images of yourself. that you are doing school appearances and community events. You serve as a role model and a spokesperson for Juneteenth. So that means that the pageant rules and responsibilities have to be executed and followed. So one of the things that you had to know as a role model, setting positive examples, you were expected to conduct yourself in a way that exemplifies your home and your community with honor, my grandmother would say, and pride. Now there's other responsibilities, such as each contestant had to make sure that they were able to fulfill the pageant booklet, which meant that your salesmanship had to come to play. You had to sell pageant tickets, and then you also had to sell ads. And there were quarter-page ads and half-page ads and full-page ads. And each person would pay for an ad and give you a congratulatory snippet or, best of luck or whatever that was, that they would let them know that they were supporting you with purchasing an ad. Now, that helped raise the money for the scholarships, but it also helped raise money for other Juneteenth events that would follow after the pageant. You also had to make sure that you had to fulfill all the mandatory meetings. You had to make sure that you knew what was Juneteenth. So everybody had to participate in like a workshop to know about Juneteenth and be able to lead a talk to discuss about Juneteenth and why was it important for us to honor our ancestors. So another one of the rules within the contest, you had to make sure that you definitely were not involved in anything illegal, and you could not be a mom or the possibility of becoming a mom within that year, or your title could be stripped. So my grandmother was really excited, and she was able to share with us the picking out of her dress. She always wanted to have princess style dresses, and they flow, and usually my grandmother say that the best color would always be something very soft, like a heather pink or a powder blue. She said you don't want to be too gaudy with magenta or turquoise. That would just be unheard of, because a young lady is simple but yet delicate. Then you had to make sure that you practice how to speak. And she wanted to make sure that you had good diction and that you enunciated your words when you were being asked the questions. Now, what your talent was, well, whether or not you sang, recited poetry, danced, that didn't matter to my grandmother. But I will tell you that my grandmother recited a poem, and then she also allowed that poem to be sung, and she was able to play the piano while the poem was played and sung, but that she recited it. And I guess people loved it. And I guess my grandmother stood there with the right pose and poise, because she won. And I don't want to tell you what year, because we might figure out how old grandmother was. But once she won the Miss Juneteenth contest, as she started having granddaughters, by the time they were 16, she kind of knew who would be eligible to register to go to the contest. Unfortunately, I was never that grand girl, but my cousin Yvette and my cousin Angela and Dakia and my cousin Mary Frances and cousin Brenda, well, they all were participants. But unfortunately, to this day, I'll go on to share. My grandmother won Miss Juneteenth in 1936. And from 1936 to now, we've not had another Miss Juneteenth. So we say that Maggie Moore is Miss Juneteenth for our family forever. However, people still try. The understanding that one will make sure that they show the sense of pride of their culture and that they're willing to think positive in how they can make a difference for our community, and exercise that we do not allow this point of our history to go unnoticed, and that those people that we come across as our family has all over the country now, we share the story of how fascinating celebrating Juneteenth is and how important it is if you got Texan blood. And we do that in honor of my grandmother. And all that we hope for this day is someday we will get a new Miss Juneteenth. But I've got two cousins right now in Austin, Texas, who are already registered for the pageant. Who knows? 2021 could be our year. Congratulations to all Mr. and Miss Juneteenth pageant participants.